officially move to get started. So welcome everyone. We have a lot prepped for you, and we might get through all of it. We might not. We do want to reserve time for questions. And so as you just heard, this meeting is being recorded. So if you have to navigate away, we do already know a few folks have to do that. That's absolutely fine. We do have other sessions. We do have a mentoring service. We have a lot. And Angela Gibson, our presenter services chair this year, is here to support you. So if we do not answer one of your questions, please feel free to utilize any and all of those offerings, and we will support you along the way. So I have the privilege of kicking things off. It's one of my favorite things to do for this type of meeting environment. I want to first and foremost call attention to the fact that the chat is there. We love a good chat at the OLC, so please feel free to use it. Introduce yourself. You already see some folks doing that. And I will say, important note, we just had about 20 people, if not 30, join us in the last minute. So if you already introduced yourself, guess what? They haven't met you yet because the chat does not archive. So it is not weird to reintroduce yourself. You never know who else from your institution or your region might be in the room. And you can help make them feel welcome by just saying hello again. So feel free to use that chat along the way. Also, we're just going to ask that you remain on mute. So I did just hear, and this is not to call out any one person in particular, but that someone is on the microphone and you just might have heard them clear their throat as well. If that does happen, myself, my colleague Christine, and my colleague Angela will have the power and the control on the back end to mute yourself. No worries. Sometimes you might be joining us from your phone and you might not be able to hit your mute button quickly. We'll save you there and hit that. It is not our way of silencing you, but simply a way to make that session that much more engaging and accessible to all. But otherwise, we will ask you to help self-monitor and just try to remain on mute unless you are hopping on to ask a question or to make a comment. There is a raised hand icon you can use. And just for those of you who are curious, on our side as Zoom room hosts and co-hosts, it does show a little hand icon over your profile image. So that does indicate that you have a question, a comment, or otherwise would like to engage by hopping on the microphone. So you can do that by navigating to your Zoom meetings control bar, click on the reactions button, and you'll see a number of things. And so if you want to test this right now, highly encourage it. Go ahead and put one of those emojis, give me a clap because you think we're already starting off great. Test those out. This is a perfect place to test that. And I know it feels weird at first as a presenter, but if you want your audiences to also do this, remembering that these tools exist is a really great way now for you to test that because you want them to do it during your session. So feel free. It will not be weird to any of us to go ahead and test those features right now in Zoom. Otherwise, I just wanted to make the note that we do have live closed captioning. So if you need to utilize that service for whatever reason, please feel free to do so. And we'll go ahead and get started otherwise. It is my privilege to not only introduce myself, but also my amazing colleagues. So I am Maddie. You can call me Maddie. I'm the Director of Online Engagement within the OLC. I'm joined here today by Angela Gibson, who is our Presenter Services Chair for OLC Accelerate and also works as at Texas A&M University in Kingsville. I also am joined by my colleague Christine Hinckley, who is Senior Director of Conferences. So everything that you're about to embark on, she helps make happen. And so we have a fantastic team here, and I'm going to very quickly here turn things over to the both of them. Feel free to introduce yourselves, both of you, as to any further extent that you want to as you take over sessions. But otherwise, welcome to each and every one of you and presenters. We do want to say, of course, congratulations. We're very excited to each and every one of you that your sessions got accepted. So can't wait for you to join us at Accelerate, whether that be virtually. Of course, if you're joining us hopefully for the virtual, you'll be joining us in September. If you happen to be an on-site and just coming regardless to the session, no matter what, we're excited you're here and really excited that your proposals got accepted. So congratulations to kick things off. There are a few things that we'll be doing today together. You all are coming as presenters from a variety of backgrounds. You are doing different types of sessions. So we do a quick reminder about what those session types are. That'll be led by Christine, and she'll review not only what they are, but what we're looking for. Because you might have gotten accepted and thought, what is that again? What am I supposed to do? How much time do I have? All of those questions we'll answer in a general way today. We'll also talk about some key considerations for each of those types, as well as things to get you started for what it's even like to present in a digital and virtual context, right? Presenting is a skill, presenting online is an additional skill on top of that, right? So we here today are going to walk you through, and Angela will do a fantastic job helping you think through some of the key factors and features and variables that you will want to keep top of mind as you do that. That will include technology, interactivity. It will include some tips and tricks on how to increase your presence as a presenter in that space, how to humanize that space a little bit, as well as key logistical considerations. And I'll weigh heavily on that side is that if you're looking for engagement strategies, and a lot of them, this is not going to be the best session to attend. This is going to be a lot of tips and tricks around tech and logisticals, how to set up your lighting, you name it. Or we are going to encourage you to check out our other presenter services sessions, as well as our mentoring services, if you're looking for key engagement strategies that go beyond what we're going to talk about today. Okay, so just want to have that caveat before we get started. And before I pass things off, I will just say, as we kick things off, that you, of course, get to help set the stage, right, for the environment you create. We know our audience members want to feel like they can participate. They want to engage. They want to feel like their voices are heard. They want to know that you're following along in that chat. If they have questions, they want to feel like you're not ignoring those, right? And you play a huge role in helping to facilitate that environment. But we also know it's really difficult. So I'll admit, right, I don't have my chat open because I didn't open it yet. So guess what? There are 27 notifications and I can see it. And I'm like, what's happening? What happened in chat? Fortunately, I have two colleagues, Christine and Angela, who I could count on along the way. So I don't have to feel that stress. But if you are solo presenting, we'll talk about strategies for how in the world would you manage a chat alongside everything else you have to do, so that you can ultimately feel like you are supporting and tending to your audience along the way. So with that, I have the privilege of passing things over to Christine Hinckley, who will take things from here and then pass it on to Angela. So Christine, take it away.
All righty. Well, thank you, Maddie, so much, and welcome everybody. As Maddie said, I'm Christine Hinckley. I'm the Senior Director of Conferences, and I'm basically here to help you guys navigate this experience as virtual presenters. So let's start with just going over the session descriptions very quickly. It's a reminder of what you should expect, what is expected for your particular session. If you've forgotten what your session type is, you can find that information on the conference website. Just look under the program page, look for your name, go to the session description, and you'll see there, it'll tell you the session type that you're presenting. Sometimes when some people submit through the call for presentations, they submit as one session type and then they get accepted for a different one. The program committee sometimes does that if they think that a different session presentation format might be better for your particular session. So it's important that you make sure that you understand exactly which session type you're presenting. Okay, so let's start very quickly with education sessions. The education sessions are basically your traditional presentation format with a presenter or panelist presenting and a Q&A or group discussion taking place. And you'll have a session chair, and we'll discuss that later. The session chair will help you manage the Q&A, and they'll ask you at the beginning whether you intend to take questions throughout your presentation or if you want to reserve it at the end. So you can see here we've kind of given a general breakdown. Education sessions are, approximately 30 to 35 minutes of presentation time, and then 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A or group discussion for a total of 45 minutes. We've also listed some appropriate engagement methods here: polling, chat, Twitter hashtags, collaborative notes, all that kind of stuff. I will say, we'll talk about this a little bit later, things like polling. If you do want to have a poll conducted, we are going to ask you to have those into us by September 2nd in order to do that. And we'll go through more information on that later. The bottom line is the more collaborative, the better. So we do encourage you to do these various methods of engagement. And as Maddie said, those engagement strategies will happen in a future presenter services webinar that I really encourage you to attend. They'll go through a lot of that. All right, next slide. Express workshops. So express workshops, same thing, 45 minutes, about 30 to 35 minutes of presentation and interactivity, about 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A and group discussion. About the same appropriate methods of engagement, but also you'll see here we've added breakout rooms. Sometimes in Express Workshop, somebody might want to do a breakout room. Again, we ask you to request that from us. You'll get emails on this reminding you of this that we would like to have that request by September 2nd. Instead of breakout rooms, we really do encourage maybe collaborative Google Docs. And that might be a different way to have people collaborate together without having to send people off to different breakout rooms. So that's something to consider as well. But basically this Express workshop, the big difference is it really should offer practical hands-on learning activities to really fully engage the participants in the learning procedure. So that's basically an Express workshop. Our next session is Gamified. These are really fun. These are really, I'm getting feedback, sorry. And can somebody check the mics? The Gamified sessions are really popular, 45 minutes long, very interactive, basically providing attendees an opportunity to explore a new skill or a strategy or technology. We suggest using breakout rooms very sparingly here, but if you do need them, let us know. But that's basically the difference in a gamified session. And then the final, oh wait, I think we've got a couple more session types. Workshops. Workshops are longer sessions, so they're 120 minutes for the virtual workshops, and basically that's 90 minutes of presentation time with a 30-minute break in the middle. So what you'll see is it covers 2 of the concurrent sessions. It'll go 45 minutes, there's a 30-minute break, and then there's 45 more minutes of the workshop. And what you'll find with the workshops is attendees will jump in and out all the time. So you may have some that come a little bit late. You may have some that start the workshop and then have to leave. But what you'll also find is even if attendees jump in and out of the workshop because of the longer length, if they do come late or leave early, a lot of them will go and watch the recording to catch what they didn't get to stay for. We do encourage, if you're presenting one of the workshops, to go ahead and give the 30-minute break, because there's a lot of social activities going on in that 30 minutes. Just, let them know we're going to break, go to this networking coffee talk, for instance, and then come back at the end of that for the second half of the workshop. That's my recommendation for that. I don't recommend working through the break. Obviously, if you need to flow over into it a little bit to get everything accomplished, that's fine, but we do kind of recommend giving them that break. Again, same kind of engagement opportunities there. And yes, Maddie just was able to demonstrate the joy of having a Zoom room manager, an OLC staff person that's monitoring what's going on in the room and can take care of things like somebody's mic being open and causing feedback for the presenter. So thanks, Maddie. All right, and our last session type are master classes. These are pre-conference workshops, basically. They're 3 hours long. They are both presentation and very interactive experiences, and these happen on Friday, September 17th. So they go 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern time zone. And then there's a break, and then I believe it's 2 to 5 p.m. in the afternoon for the second set of master classes. Again, these are meant to be deeply engaging. Since it's a straight 3-hour session, we'll leave it up to the presenters to kind of decide when you might want to give a little coffee/bio break to your attendees. I mean, we do recommend that you do that once or twice at least during the workshop, because 3 hours is a long time for anybody to sit and go through this. But again, these pre-conference master classes should be very interactive and engaging sessions for attendees. So that is a quick overview, and I am going to turn things back to Angela now. Angela?
Hi, hello everyone. Great to see you here. Thanks so much for those who are asking excellent questions in the chat and participating in the chat. I know some of you are very focused on what's going on the screen, which is great, and some of you are able to also participate in the chat, so thank you so much. But if you do have questions, we will try to address them in the chat, and then also we'll have an open session at the end. But what I'm going to cover a bit is to look at some technology, but also engagement components for sessions. And this is just overall as a basic foundation for all sessions. It's really useful to consider all these things. And this is as Maddie and Christine just pointed out, a really great opportunity to see how there's so many moving parts, and you might not see all of it behind the scenes, but definitely, oh, my audio is distorted.
Yeah, I'm hearing a little clicking sound. Angela,
Yep,
I'm
and it
not sure
looks
what's
like
going
we
on.
are not alone. Yep, it looks. I think it might be your headset, Angela. If I had to look at
So
this.
sorry. How's
There
that?
we
Is that better?
go.
Hey, I meant to do that. That was a great example of being able to troubleshoot on the fly in the middle of a presentation. You guys are great. Love it. Actually, I didn't plan that, but luckily I knew what might happen. So having some testing ahead of time, I knew that if something like that came up, but I did check my audio before we started. So that's also a good consideration of how even if you plan and test things out at the beginning of a session, it doesn't always mean that the dog isn't going to bark when the UPS truck goes by. Don't know if you heard that dog just now. And that's true. Don't panic. Just, ooh, predator sounds. That's even better. Okay. So moving forward, let's see. Yes, thank you, Maddie. I appreciate it, or Christine. So let's talk about location. As you can see, we're all in different locations, and and one of the things to think about is your time of day when you are presenting and what might happen outside. So for example, I love natural lighting, and I really like to have the light coming in from my windows. I enjoy that much better than having my type of lighting that is artificial in the room. However, it really depends on what's going on outside, and you can't necessarily take care of the weather. So luckily today is a nice sunny day, but if we had a storm coming through or if it was a cloudy day, my lighting is going to change. So one of the things to think about as much as you can is to test out your visuals and what you look like and your screen and the reflection actually also from the screen itself on you and on your face while you are presenting. So try it out at different times. Look to see what time of the day you also may be presenting. So that gives you an opportunity to think about, you know, what it might be. It might be really late at night, or for some of our wonderful presenters, it might be at 1 o'clock in the morning. We have someone here, I think from Malaysia, it was 1 o'clock in the morning. Also plan for noise. Are you in a place where you get good feedback and don't have predator sounding clicks? Do you need to maybe put a couple pillows in the room? Like if you're in an empty space, you need something to absorb that sound. Also think about how to minimize those disruptive sounds. Like right now I'm reaching out because my door to my office is over there, and I'm definitely trying to make sure that the dog and the husband and the son don't come into my room. And even though right now it sounds like there's the UPS truck and the dog and the fighter jets going over, because I live kind of near a naval base. So you have to think about it, also the noises, and do other people hear it? You know, I love going on Zoom sessions and someone's like, oh my gosh, sorry about the noise. They're mowing outside. I don't hear it necessarily. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. So recording yourself and testing those out is really important. Being aware of your environment, but also others. Maybe you have coworkers, maybe you have family, maybe you have housemates, maybe your supervisor. You need to just give them a heads up on giving a notification on things. Next slide, please. So again, going back to testing, it's really important to test things out. And yes, Dennis, absolutely, a good noise canceling microphone helps. Not all of us have all the equipment. And I have to say that probably a year and a half ago, when everyone was scrambling to go remote and virtual, it was really hard. Not everybody had a great webcam, not everybody had a great microphone, and we just do the best we can. And so if you know that you might have you know, a situation where you might have low bandwidth and you might have to get off your video in order for you to show your presentation, or the audio is the best quality that you can have, then just make sure to share that at the beginning of your presentation. We all understand when things happen, but it's really important for you to practice. And, I was talking earlier just a few minutes ago about how if you're in a space where you hear a lot of echo, or you hear like a tinny sound, or the audio is just not great, and you want to put some pillows or some blankets or something to absorb the sound, the same with lighting. Get on Zoom or whatever your virtual meeting room opportunity is, and test out your lighting. Also practice, because some webcams will adjust. You can also adjust the lighting, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But the most important thing is to make sure it's not distracting, again, like predator clicking sounds. So next slide, please. Talking about, yeah, absolutely, Sierra. So having the low bandwidth, starting the session by saying, I may, need to, or I will be turning off my video so that, because I have low bandwidth, so that I can stream the presentation, or whatever you need to be doing. It's completely understandable. It's nice to have that presence in the beginning, if at all possible, and then towards the end. However, we're going to, definitely do the best you can to, and that's why testing is important. So this image is a great example of what happens if maybe I open all my blinds to all my windows, or if I have my camera pointed at a different area. You don't want it distracting, so it washes you out. If at all possible, next slide, please. We want to be able to see you in a more natural light. Now, I have to admit that I did not invest in one of those wonderful ring lights that a lot of people got so excited about. And if I present on a cloudy day or a dark evening, I do have to kind of troubleshoot, and I have to put up some different little lamps behind my screens to raise the lighting. It's not the best, but I also know that it is better than having it washed out, or too dark, or too yellow. Yeah, ring light. Some people purchase these. It's a light. I should have had an example. Sorry. And it's basically a ring, and it helps give a nice look on your face. A lot of social media and YouTube influencers have those. Yeah, they're now cheap on Amazon. Before they were like, but Christine, your lighting looks really good. So well done. Give you a thumbs up on that one. Next slide, please. Lori, that's a great question. We'll talk a little bit about what your responsibilities as a presenter or presenters will be, and also what the OLC staff will be able to help with. And Christine, I believe, will be talking about that in just a moment. So yes, oh, and she's answering the question in the chat. So thank you. It's interesting because there's a lot of noises like predator clicking sounds. I'm not going to stop that today. That's just going to be my thing today for the rest of the day. I'm going to like find a way to put that into Twitter today. I don't know. But but there are sounds that you may not think are going to be able to be heard or through your presentation. So phone is on vibrate, right? Which, I could turn it off. But let's say I was co-presenting, and then maybe that's the best way for my co-presenter to be telling me, oh, hey, we're running low on time, or whatever it's going on. If you have your phone on your desk, there are times that you can actually hear the vibration through the audio. Or if you have computer sounds like Slack or Teams or Skype, or the ding that shows up when you have a new email, oftentimes those will we'll be able to hear those depending on how your setups are. So again, I recommend testing for those recordings, testing through a recording so you can play it back and try out different things. Have your phone vibrate when you are on your testing session. Have an email sent to you, or send yourself an email, or see what happens when the different audio testing happens. So definitely grab your best friend, grab your coworker. Dogs don't really give a lot of feedback on those things, so it's probably going to need to be a human, but definitely grab somebody who can help you test those things out. Next slide, please. And also practice where you sit. So you may notice, I'm just going to call myself out here, that I have my chair back. Not all of us may have exactly the same chair, in a very specific spot. And I am using a specific camera position. Now, I tend to use my hands a lot when I talk. I noticed that when I first started using webcam, I used to move around a lot. And I think that caused some people to be a little dizzy or it was distracting. So I try really hard to stay within a frame, the rule of thirds, but I also try to use my hands to fill up that space. I also think about what's in the background. Now, some people might use a less active background or a cluttered background or interesting background to not have people go, oh, I wonder what that is in the back. But I also sometimes have low bandwidth issues. And if I put on a Zoom background, it will degrade the rest of my my screen, my audio, my video. So I just keep my background. However, if I move, you'll see where my son sits for when he is remote learning. So I tested it out and made sure that what you saw is basically, you can see a little computer screen over the top, but it doesn't give you the rest of that clutter. And definitely he's not in here right now, but the rest of that clutter. So definitely practice feeling comfortable in the space. Take Zoom recordings or other virtual meeting recordings to see where you are, and also to make sure it's not super distracting. The other thing is if you can't necessarily control what's in the background, make sure there's nothing personal that you would rather not have on a Zoom meeting that sometimes shows up. And it could be that like you have your list of passwords on the wall. I wouldn't recommend that to be in the screen. Okay, next slide, please. We keep talking about practicing and testing, and it's so important. So if we're talking about the actual presentation itself, now that we're talked a little bit about the environment, definitely we want to practice. Some people feel more comfortable with a script. Some people feel more comfortable with presenter notes. Some people feel more comfortable with some bullet points or an outline or an agenda to help them. Consider if you have the capability to open up a second monitor or a tablet or even your phone, unless you're like me and are starting to need these. I have to do it on the big screen now, but definitely practice what it looks like when you are moving between two different screens with your eye contact and your body language. Also what it looks like when you have something that you're reading from, because I have seen people who get out their tablet and then do their presentation reading from the tablet like this, and then the eye contact is all on the tablet, which sometimes, if we can avoid it, if we can prop up that tablet on a set of books, or if we can practice moving from one monitor or a script and moving back to the eye, where the eye contact is in the video camera, then that's really helpful. But definitely practice that, because it's something that doesn't necessarily come natural. Using facial expressions and blinking, I know that sounds really weird, but you definitely don't want someone staring at the screen for a very long time, because then it looks really weird and you don't look as human. But definitely using facial expressions are helpful. Being comfortable when you do make those little errors, it's okay. Most of the time, if you don't tell us, we're not going to know. It's also okay if you have to stop and say, I'm just going to take a moment, look to see where I am. I'm going to take a sip of water. I encourage you to as well. And then I'll start back up. So definitely do that. Dress in a comfortable way, but also professionally. Remember, this is a presentation, and it could be anywhere from 10 to a couple hundred people or more who attend your session. And it also is being recorded. So definitely think about what your clothing choices look like with your background. If you use a Zoom background image, sometimes you might find that you blend in with the background, which is, it's funny, but it's a little distracting, but definitely feel comfortable, but also feel professional as you would in a regular conference setting. So please, next slide. Thank you. Some of the things to think about also, just again, managing your technology. So for the example a few minutes ago where my audio was not doing what it should be, then I knew what setting to try next. And so one of the things to consider is what are your options if something happens with your technology? Or for example, like Maddie just demonstrated for me, thank you, Maddie, that the screen share all of a sudden goes out. Practice what happens when what you would do if the screen share suddenly goes out, or you accidentally close out your screen share, or your audio all of a sudden goes out. Practice what to do when the maybe all of a sudden there's a lag or an echo. So definitely practice those things. Something to also think about is for those of you that have co-presenters, and I know some of you already shared that with us, that you have co-presenters, which is awesome. You're going to need to practice who is doing what and who's managing what. So right now, thanks to Maddie, Maddie is handling the slides. Maddie and Christine are both handling the chat while I'm presenting. I'm trying very hard to not look at the chat too much because I know I'll get distracted, but I also know as a co-presenter, I can rely on them. As Christine just said, as I looked at the chat, yes, who is driving the slides and also the handoff. So if you notice, I've been saying next slide, please, because then that indicates to Maddie or whoever is driving, handling the slides, that it's not supposed to be intuitive, because I might accidentally jump ahead or wait too long, or I might be distracted by a bird outside or something to that effect. So definitely consider what the roles are and practice those roles definitely, and also have a backup. I had a wonderful doctoral student who co-presented a 3-hour workshop with me, and halfway through her bandwidth went down, her internet went out, and we knew that was a possibility because of weather in her area. So she had a backup with her hotspot and a tablet, and luckily she was able to get back in. She didn't have all the bells and whistles. I took over driving the slides. We had practiced that. It worked out really well. So thank you. Okay, so on this slide, we're preparing your technology. Again, as so many of you have already mentioned, thank you, that having a good headset or a good mic with good quality is important. However, not all of us can do that, and not all of us have that capability. So testing it and knowing what are the best settings and what are the best setups and what are the best uses of your microphone and your speakers, or your internal headset speakers, will be useful to you as a presenter. That's going to be very important. The webcam, again, so knowing your settings within your computer, and if you're not familiar with them, either if you're at an institution where you have an IT to troubleshoot, that's great. Maybe you're at your own home and you use Geek Squad, or you have a family member, or you can look on YouTube and figure it out. But definitely knowing what your settings are important. Sometimes people say to me, well, I don't know if it's really professional to have your headset on when you're presenting. And I said, but this is the best audio quality I have. If I use my webcam audio, it sounds tinny, and I don't like how it sounds myself, and I don't think others would like it as much. It is a backup. However, this isn't like the most expensive one. This is Logitech, and it's lower end Logitech, but I tested it and I was very happy with it. And I even sometimes for my classes use my avatar. They'll see my avatar, my cartoon image of myself is me with my headset on, because I just use it so much. Make sure that your webcam, again, is working properly and it's on the settings that you want. And that includes, the lighting, any filters, definitely not choosing the cat filter. I am not a cat, says the lawyer who was in court with the cat filter on. Making sure that your webcam is in the position that you want it to be, and do the best you can with a stable internet connection, and let people know if there is a storm coming in, or if something's happening where you couldn't have controlled it at all. I know that when I present, like just today, I told my family, please do not be on the internet between 1 and 2 my time, because I knew that sometimes if they are on their meetings or live sessions, it can pull the internet from my own presenting. So, we have to share the road, right? Okay, so next slide, please. Speaking of settings, If you have Zoom availability, please do practice with the actual Zoom and the Zoom settings. So you all, I think, I've been trying not to keep too much of an eye on the chat, but I know Christine and Maddie have, and I know some of you have been offering your tips and techniques and strategies. What are some of your best Zoom tips when it comes to technology? What settings do you use for your Zoom camera and your Zoom audio or filters? What do you all use? We have an example here where you can go into Zoom and you can go to the bottom of the screen and you can see where the video icon is. You can click on that and you can go to video settings and then choose filters and then test it out on a recording for yourself to see what works best for you. Christine says that Zoom can put on makeup and also can offer a softening filter. That's really fun. Maddie is showing out some really awesome backgrounds that she's using. So if you want to have something fun, but yet professional, maybe it's a particular time of that presentation where you could have a zombie showing up in the background on purpose. Maybe it's an icebreaker that you're going to do with your participants. Maybe it's something you'd like to show as an example. Laura says that she does enable the high definition, the HD, but she doesn't usually touch up her appearances because sometimes it looks way too airbrushed. And for some of us, we're just so wonderful the way we are. We don't need to have that, the frozen filter, right? That where it looks like, you're so flat-faced, but Maddie's offering some really cool things. All right, so any other ideas or strategies that you use with your camera and background for Zoom? Yeah, backgrounds do use a lot of bandwidth, which is why you actually see my real office as opposed to, a Roman palace or something. I don't know what I would choose. I'm not sure today. But yes, and the shimmering effect and the new low light setting, that's good to definitely think about. So thank you very much, Bob. All right, next slide, please. So again, some things to think about. This is why grabbing your bestie or maybe a couple coworkers or a couple best friends and getting them on a Zoom session and recording it is to test out what it means for you to be in charge of your session, where you're sitting, looking at the camera, hiding participants that aren't on video. Maybe they've chosen for whatever reason to not engage their video, how it looks when you're talking with your hands, talking with your participants as opposed to just talking at them. So definitely record and test out what it actually will be like. Run through your session or parts of your session. Run through what it means to be managing the chat, what it means to be looking at when people put up emojis, what it means when someone raises their hand, what it means when you want to have someone come off mute and go onto mic, and then what it means taking those breaks in chat, especially if you are presenting on your own. So next slide, please. Definitely during the session, we want to make sure that you involve your participants. Right now, I have the luxury of Maddie and Christine doing an amazing job in the chat and handling questions and interacting also with comments and ideas, because if I was presenting alone, which I have done many times, I will tell my participants at the beginning that I'm going to be monitoring the chat. So I'll take a break. I'll say, I'm going to just take a sip of water and take a look at the chat. I'm going to say, if I miss something in the chat, please hold it to the end or let me know during, like a 3-minute question break. Definitely use people's names. So Rolando, he just had a recommendation for using names so we don't mispronounce. So thank you for that question, Rolando. Absolutely. One of the things I might be able to say for that is if I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, or I don't want to take a chance on that, I might say, that was a great question. Would the person who asked that would like to get on the mic, or I'd say, can you please phonetically provide how to pronounce your name, or offer them to pronounce their name if there's time or availability for them to get on the mic. So that is a great question, Rolando, definitely. See, use of names. Polling, again, we mentioned some polling. Polling is a nice way to interact. at the very beginning of our session today, we asked who was new to OLC presenting, who was new to OLC conferences, who was a veteran. So we definitely had some interaction in the chat. That was a poll. It was very informal. And that's not the type of poll that necessarily needs to be submitted to OLC for their staff. And Christine will talk about that in a minute. But if you're having polls and breakout sessions, definitely, and if it's more than just that informal in the chat, you will need to notify the OLC by September 2nd. We're going to keep mentioning that throughout the presentation today. Definitely, especially if you're presenting on your own or if you're practicing with co-presenters, you want to make sure that somebody, whether it's you as the single presenter or your co-presenters, are monitoring the chat, taking a space or a few moments to pause, to read things, allow for audience reflection. So if you ask a question, make sure you have that wait time, that you're waiting for responses either on a poll, in a chat, or in some other type of activity. Definitely props can be useful. Maddie just a few minutes ago had a, I think it was a zombie, or was it a mummy, or was it, I'm not quite sure, who was hanging from her background. Props are useful. You can, if you have props, so sometimes depending on my type of session and what I'm talking about, I might even have paper that I hold up just because it's old school, but it's also fun and it's a different view of things. For props, I might have some images where I stop sharing my presentation for a moment and then open up something on my computer. So make sure all those are set up ahead of time and that you practice transitioning. You'd even hand props, like if all of a sudden we have a someone joining the presentation, like if all of a sudden someone who's on mic or one of the presenters, like if Christine all of a sudden had a young one join her in the background, I could, I have at the ready, a little dinosaur, and I have a little squirrel, just to have fun, because, it's okay if someone happens to come in to the session, it's all right. Or if you have props to, like if you have a gamified session, maybe you'll have some props, maybe you have different hats. Talk to me about my hats later. Okay, next slide, please.
Actually, before we advance, we had some really great questions. And so this will be a really good time to demonstrate this. And so we'll just take a quick second. So I had, I love when things like this happen on the fly. So I accidentally clicked, I have no idea what keyboard button I clicked, genuinely. And it pulled up, or it tried to pull up my speaker notes when I didn't want them. So you saw that the screen share totally adjusted in front of me. And so I went back into it. And if this happens during your session, please feel free, particularly if we see, it's okay to take a second and say, oh, it looks like something just happened. We'll just adjust the slides here for a second. And in this case, I'll just take a moment to show you and walk you through. One of my favorite things is that some of you actually do have quite a few concerns. We actually did already get a fantastic presenter services related question around, well, how do I possibly share everything I need to see on my screen? And you'll see that when my computer automatically from that keyboard button tried to pull up my speaker notes, it actually messed up the screen share, right? And that wasn't something I was aware of until folks brought it up in the chat. So thank you all to all of those, because as a presenter, I never would have known, right? So we rely on the folks in the room, the Zoom manager, the session chair. We will of course be monitoring that along the way. But because we have this opportunity, we're going to utilize it. So if you were to advance and when you practice this and click on screen share, I could select a given window. And so I'll show you in this window, if I were to just select this, you should be able to see the back end of our entire meetings notes. You'll be able to see like my Spotify account. You'll be able to see my Canva, right? So you can see a whole lot. And that might not be the view you want, because once I go in here, I'll have to click this present button in order to show you the view I want. If I, however, had clicked present beforehand, and then I use my hotkeys on my keyboard, which for me is 4 fingers up, and then I go back into Zoom, and then I click share screen, select that window, and look what happens now, right? When I am sharing screen, it's in a nice presentation mode. It's exactly what I want you to see. So it doesn't show you the back end. And that was not difficult for me because I know my hotkeys on my keyboard so that I can easily navigate from screen to screen. So it might be something to familiarize yourself with. If you, however, you'll notice I actually am not in presenter mode, so I can't see my speaker notes. And if I wanted to see that, test that beforehand to make sure it works. Because as you can see, It didn't work for my keyboard when it tried to auto do that. If you were to instead, however, go and utilize the portion of screen version. So if you were to go back, click screen share, click advanced, and then do portion of screen. I'm going to show you what happens here. So I don't mind showing you a little bit of behind the scenes because we love a good meta moment. So what it does is pull up a window. I can pull that over. I can shift that to anywhere on my screen. I can minimize that slightly. And as I do, and as I adjust that, you'll see the slow, painstaking adjustment. I did this intentionally slow so you can see, right? But now you should only be able to see the slide that I want you to see. Whereas I could see my entire desktop. So I could have notes on the side. I could have the chat. I could have whatever the case is and be able to see both the slide, my speaker notes, and anything else I need. So I love taking a moment, particularly if screen sharing happened to go awry in the middle of something, to just bring that to your attention. Okay, so there are multiple ways to share your screen, but absolutely, it's fine if something happens, right? It happens to all of us. So we'll get right back into it, and that's why we have session chairs and Zoom managers to assist along the way as necessary. So Angela,
Absolutely.
I turn things back over to you. And do let us know in the chat
excellent.
if you want any other tips and tricks about screen sharing.
Yes, and we can do some more of those in a few minutes. Absolutely. Thank you, Maddie. That was fantastic. And Christine's going to talk a little bit more about when you hear those terms of Zoom managers and room managers and things like that. So Christine's going to definitely share a lot about that. Just know that when you do your practice and you do your test recordings and you're with your besties or coworkers or whoever, that test out the things that might happen. So for what Maddie was just saying, that all of a sudden this sharing doesn't happen, or your screen notes are there, or presenter notes or something, or your Spotify account comes up, test that out because that's really helpful. Someone mentioned about not drinking if you can't. However, I will say that it's a nice excuse to say, I'm just going to pause for a moment, take a sip of water, especially if you need to regroup yourself or if you want to take a look at the chat. Also, I am prone, it seems, in the past couple of years to laryngitis. And so back for Innovate in the spring, I was just recovering from laryngitis. So I prepped at the beginning of the presentation by saying I had to drink copious amounts of water and hot beverages so that I could make sure that I kept my voice for the entire presentation. So I think if you just are transparent and offer that up to your presenters, your attendees, your participants, that it will be okay. Definitely, if you are eating, you need to bring snacks for everyone. So unless you're prepared to share out those donuts, please do not bring donuts because I will be definitely looking to have those donuts. Okay, next slide, please. We should be on create access, please. Oh, awesome. So one of the things to think about, just in addition to making sure your environment is not distracting, to make sure that your audio is not distracting, to make sure that, you know, whatever you're drinking is not distracting, that your presentation itself is accessible visually to all, which is why testing it again is so important. How does it look in Zoom? Because I have to say, it's so awesome to have this amazing presentation and it looks great, and you put it in Zoom and you're like, whoa, what happened? Or when I go on site to conferences and I walk into the conference session and I put it up on the big screen, I'm like, oh, that's not how I thought it was going to look. So you have to be ready to troubleshoot immediately. But with virtual presentations, the nice thing is to have, you can test ahead of time using Zoom. So how what looks and you share on your computer screen might not be how it looks when Zoom, especially if you have co-presenters and you're sharing. So colors are important and contrast. I just happened to see in the chat, Laura is mentioning that. If you need more direct presenter tips on what this all means with the visual accessibility, I will be happy to share, but also we have some excellent resources on our presenter section of the OLC Accelerate conference website, which I will share that link in just a moment. However, if you think it's distracting, or your coworker or your bestie or whoever else thinks it's distracting, you definitely can adjust that if you practice ahead of time. Next slide, please. Also, along the way, engaging. We've talked about several things, how the visual is, how the audio is, your environment, polling, interactions, managing the chat, all those different things help with getting your content across. Yes, we want it to be about your content. We want it to be about the wonderful information that you are sharing, but we also want it so that things are not distracting from it. And that's what we've been talking about, but also what can we do to make it exciting and engaging? That doesn't necessarily mean, going back to what we just said in the last slide on visually accessible content, we don't want it to have bells and whistles just for the reason of having bells and whistles, but are we able to then have someone who is interested in your content for your 30 to 45 minutes? Would you be interested in it? Would you have, are your best friends who know maybe very little about your topic, are they interested in it? So definitely something to think about. We can talk more about engaging content, engaging presentations, engaging interactions. But let me go to the next slide. And if you're interested, one of our wonderful, next slide, please. So one of our wonderful members of the OLC volunteer conference staff, Tanya Means, she's fantastic. She created this excellent QR code generator. So if you're feeling like you want to have your participants connect with you, maybe prior to your session, maybe you're posting it out on social media, or if during the session so they can learn a little bit more about you, or at the end if you have some documents or Google shares that you're, or swag that you're going to share out with your participants at the end of your session, you can create these QR codes, take your excuse me, phone, and then hover it over the QR code, and then that will go straight to Tanya's LinkedIn or whatever you choose to have it connect to. So that's just an example of a way to connect. So next slide, please. Excuse me for just a second. Nope, that wasn't planned, but it's a good example of how I got off the mic in time not to cough in your ear. So I was able to say, excuse me for a second before I did that. So if you are wanting much more information after this session, and out of the wonderful things we've talked about, I've just placed the link in the chat, and you can open it and bookmark it and take a look later. But OLC presenter services, we have presenter guides, so on-demand resources for that. The webinars, such as the one you're attending right now, and future webinars on specific sessions. Request mentoring, we can offer one-on-one mentoring. And if you so choose to be a mentor, at this point, we have our mentors for the OLC Accelerate conference, but if you are interested in helping out in the future and or being a mentor for future conferences, we would love to have you consider that. So you can take a look at the presenter services page. Again, there is a lot more information on that site and on-demand resources. Take a look. You can also contact us anytime and we will get back to you. So next slide, please. As we finish up my section, I just want you to know that we are here for you, and you will, and Christine will talk about this more in a minute, but just know that we are wanting you to be able to do as much as possible in use of your technology, creating your environment, creating an engaging presentation, making it accessible, interactive, and feeling comfortable in that. And all those presenter services are there to help you. But just know that even though we have this support staff, we're not going to be able to order the lunch for you or tell your dog to stop barking at the UPS truck. So therefore, I want to make sure that you are feeling comfortable with this. Next slide, please. You definitely got this. And no matter what, it's going to be great. So I turn this over to Christine now. I will help in the chat and I will take questions at the end. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Angela. I appreciate that. I'm going to very quickly in our last few minutes just kind of run through a little bit of the questions we've been getting about how you'll get help. So you'll have plenty of help. The OLC staff, first of all, is here to help you. Presenter services and OLC staff members can answer any kind of questions and help you troubleshoot prior to the conference. And then during the conference and during your session, you'll have an OLC staff Zoom room manager in every single session. And they'll arrive there about 15 minutes prior to open the room up. and they'll do the housekeeping with you and the session chair, and then get the session started and help monitor, just like we've done here, any kind of technical issues, helping monitor the chat, that kind of thing. So you'll have a lot of support. If your room isn't open 15 minutes before the session starts, don't panic. We try to be there 15 minutes before, but sometimes we're ending a session in one room and needing to, get a glass of water and then, or coffee, and then open up the next room very quickly. So it could be, 5 to 10 minutes before they get there. Typically, we try to get there 15 minutes before, just so we have plenty of time with you, the presenter, and the session chair. Next slide. Okay, so again, be sure to arrive early. Like I said, 10 to 15 minutes before. If the room isn't open, don't panic. It just means the OLC staff member hasn't gotten there yet and will shortly. During that opening time, we will test out your mic, your video, your screen share. We'll have conversations with you, the presenter, and the session chair about how the session's going to run. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit. And then eventually we'll launch the session. We've mentioned polls and breakout rooms throughout this. If you are, and I'm going to again remind everybody, September 2nd is the deadline to submit those requests to us. So now I'm going to kind of read this just so I can make sure I give all the information right. So this is an example of me looking off to the left to my speaker notes on a different screen, so I can tell you this. The polls can be single choice or multiple choice with up to 10 answers. And if a tech request isn't received by September 2nd, in other words, hey, I'd like to do a poll. It's multiple choice. Here's my questions. Here's my answers type of thing. That's what you'll email to us. We will set that up in the Zoom room in advance and be ready to initiate that poll. And that's one of the things that we would talk about at the beginning of the session is, at what point would you like me to initiate the poll? So you might say, okay, when I hit the 7th slide, that's when I want you to, or I'll tell you, I'll signal to you to go ahead and initiate that. And the OLC staff member will actually initiate the poll, show the results, and then stop sharing that poll at that time. Same thing with breakout rooms. You would email us in advance and say, hey, I'd like to do breakout rooms. I just want to divide the presenters or the attendees evenly, and we'll set that up. And then at the beginning of the session, we'll have a little discussion with you about timing and how long you want them to remain in the breakout rooms, that type of thing. So that's why we have that 10 to 15 minutes ahead of the start of the session, so we can do all this last minute little catching up and housekeeping. We do encourage, again, breakout rooms are fine. We do see people tend to drop out of sessions when you go to breakout rooms. It happens. And so one of the things that we found, Maddie is a pro at this. And when you come to the engagement sessions, like the design sessions, she'll show you all these tricks. But like Maddie, when she's presenting, a lot of times she'll use a Google Doc with collaboration and music in the background. And it's really engaging and gives people a chance to really interact all together without having to go to individual breakout rooms. So we do encourage that if possible. The breakout rooms, one of the reasons is the breakout rooms also, they're not recorded, and they're difficult to get the captioning in it. That doesn't work well either. So if you must use breakout rooms, we at least suggest leaving one working group in the main room, just so that you can capture, the discussions from there in the captioning and the recording. And then basically breakout rooms can only be created by the meeting host, and we'll randomly divide participants unless there's some other designation that you give us. On the polls, if you don't get a poll to us by September 2nd, you could launch your own poll in a different format, but then you would be completely responsible for that. So just giving you a heads up on that. Maddie mentioned, I think before, when you arrive at the room, about, at least 5 to 10 minutes before, we'll make you a co-host and your presenter's co-host. And that way, if somebody loses power, this actually happened to me a lot during one of our Innovate conferences, because we were having a hurricane and I kept losing power. So, it was going off on the Florida coast, along the coast, but we were getting enough of the lashing of it that we kept losing power. So if that happens, then, your co-hosts have the capability to drive the session. And let's see. Let's go to the next slide and let's talk a little bit more about the session chairs. I think we're ahead of one slide, back one slide, please. So you'll have an OLC staff member driving the Zoom room and basically helping coordinate the whole thing. You'll also have a session chair in your session, and the session chairs are volunteers. They're other conference attendees, and basically they're there to do two things: to help moderate the chat and to help you keep time. And so what they'll do is they'll get introduced to you at the beginning. They'll have a little conversation with you. You know, how would you like to do Q&A? Do you want to do it throughout? Do you want to do it at the end? And then they'll help keep an eye on that chat and point out any questions that you may have missed at the appropriate time when you're wanting to do Q&A. They will not answer the questions for you. They'll help guide you to answering those, but they won't answer them on your behalf. And then they'll also help give you signals in the background. You know, sometimes it's by chat if that's what you want. Sometimes they may just verbally take the mic and be like, okay, there's 10 minutes left, just giving you a time check. So that's what the session chair is there for. So each room has at least an OLC Zoom room manager, often a session chair. If by chance there's not a session chair in your room, the Zoom room, the OLC staff member will do both duties. Next slide. So I'm going to finish this up really quickly because we're at the top of the hour. All the sessions are recorded. The Zoom room manager will introduce you at the start of the session and then turn the screen sharing over to you. So they'll stop sharing their screen. At the beginning, there's slides that the Zoom room manager is going through, introduction slides. When it's time for you to present, they'll stop sharing and you will start sharing. And then at the end of the session, they will, again, you'll stop sharing your screen and the OLC staff member will take the screen sharing over again to do the final announcements. At the end of the session, they will take a tiny URL and it's an actual link to your session evaluation. Let's go to the next slide, sorry. And they'll, I'm going to keep going quickly. They'll use that tiny link. It's a specific link for your particular session for the evaluation, and they will go ahead and share that in the chat and encourage everybody to evaluate your session. And as a presenter, you will get those session evaluations not too long after the conference. It usually takes, you know, a couple weeks to get that all organized and off to you, but it's important feedback that we want you to have. Okay, so a reminder of important deadlines. Upload your materials in advance. The deadline for that is September 10th. This is important because people want to be able to see your materials immediately after your session. When they've been to a good session, they're super excited. They want to go immediately and review those materials again. So upload them by the deadline. If you make changes between the deadline and the start of the conference or even after the conference, you can re-upload. That's not a problem. But we try to encourage everybody to do it in advance, at least the initial version, so that people can access that. Very important, all sessions are in US Eastern time zone. So make sure that you adjust your calendars. All sessions are published in those times, in that time zone. And then the other thing that's really important to know is there are breaks in between sessions. So it's important that you end on time so that everybody can get ready for the next session. And I'm telling you, the Zoom room will get shut down like right when your time is up. So do be cognizant of the time and listen to your Zoom room manager and session chair. Next slide. This is super important too. Accessing your session, you will enter the conference platform as an attendee. So you'll access as an attendee, you'll navigate to your session, and you're in the session, you're in the Zoom room, and then the OLC staff member will recognize, because they know exactly who's supposed to be presenting in that session, and they will give you co-host role in Zoom. And all those access instructions will be emailed out to all attendees before the conference begins. It'll happen a couple of times. There will be one like a week out, and then I think usually Sunday night we send a reminder out as well before the conference starts on Monday. Next slide. The evaluations, I kind of already talked that, so we'll just go ahead and skip through that. And I think uploading your presentation, we've kind of talked about that. These are the specific steps. You'll see this and you will get a reminder email with these steps in plenty of time for you to upload those. So I'm not going to go through those today, but just know that these steps are in there. If you have any trouble at all uploading your presentation, you can contact us at conference@ onlinelearning-c.org. Maybe somebody will type that in the chat. Any kind of questions you have, whether it's uploading your presentation or other questions, just reach out to us at that email and we will be glad to help you. Next slide. And additional support, a reminder, I believe Maddie shared the presenter services landing page on the conference website previously. All the support you could need is there. All the questions, the recordings from this session, everything will be there. So I highly recommend going to visit that page. You can also request any kind of consulting for your presentation, mentoring, not consulting, mentoring, sorry, for your presentation. If you like, you'll find all of that there. Next slide. Next slide. And that's it. So I will turn things back over to Maddie. And if anybody has questions, we'll hang here for a few minutes and answer those.
Yes, absolutely. So that is the end of the session. This was, of course, general logistics, some tips and tricks along the way as we could sneak them in. But just to give you some insight into what virtually presenting with us will look like in September. So questions, anything, we will, of course, we're at the top of the hour, but we will stay on as we always do in case any folks do have some additional questions. So we open the floor, let us know in the chat, hop on mic, you name it, and we'll answer it. But otherwise, thank you all for joining and can't wait to see you in just about a month. We'll stay on. We'll give it a couple minutes. So if we will wait to exit the room, and if it ends up being about 10 more folks, eventually we will wait just to make sure. But that is how we tend to close out our sessions.
There was a good question about a fee for mentoring. No, it is part of your OLC experience. And we have some amazing presenter mentors who are volunteers, but have exceptional experience and knowledge in all different types of presenting, virtual, on-site, discovery sessions, polling, breakout rooms, engaging sessions, accessibility, and we are very glad to help. So you can go to that website. I'll put it in again. And on the website, you can request. Is the audio?
Your audio sounds okay to me, Angela.
Yeah,
but just
me too.
Yeah,
Okay,
for Stephen, for your sake, I'll just repeat that really quickly, is that mentoring does not cost anything. Angela is she just in fact dropped the link to the website for presenter services. So if you do like to request mentoring, she has coordinated a fantastic group of mentors that have a range of experience and expertise. So if you're looking to meet up with a mentor, that is a free service. And so we just want to go and request mentors on that website. All right, any other questions? All right, without further ado, then we're at in the teens. So that signals for us that we've given you the chance. We've asked you 3 times and we're going to go ahead and close out. So as I do so, you'll hear me stop the recording.